Good day, everyone. We've got another interview for you today, and it's with Faye Stenning. If you haven't watched the recent one we loaded a couple days ago, that sounds weird, uploaded, that's better. The video that we uploaded with Ryan and Graham about their brand new Knox training, which you should go look at because they're going to have a little goodie for the first 25 people who sign up for that program. Probably many of those spots are gone. But today it's Faye, and we always have fun with Faye, and we love Faye. Faye does a podcast on this network called the Nitty Gritty Training Podcast. But let's listen to her experience in Abu Dhabi and maybe a little bit about her plans for next year. Away we go. Let's go through your Abu Dhabi trip. Most folks that I know flew in, flew out. They took advantage of the free trip via Spartan's Nirvana partner. But you made it a real holiday. It looked like I saw you seeing great things.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the plan, like, from the get-go. With Spartan, like, deciding not to pay for us to go to the series, and with the series being in, like, some similar places, I was like, "Okay, well, I kinda wanted to do something different this year, see, like, a new place." So, my whole plan was just to kinda go to Abu Dhabi, so I kinda budgeted. It was a very expensive holiday, so we came down, like, a week before. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like try and get to Abu Dhabi, like qualify at Big Bear, but then like kind of budget all my like race money for that one race. Um and then I found out that people were then getting sent to go, and I was like, oh, I didn't have to like sit out all year to like put all my money to spending going on this championship race. I would have been sent there if I just would have waited a little longer before booking. But yeah, I just wanted to make it a holiday. I think it was the kind of race that it was just an odd race. Like, I mean, the sand, it wasn't just like, oh, we were running a little bit in the sand. It was like a totally different sport. And I had Ryan and Lindsay on the podcast a couple days leading into the event. Like, Ryan, basically, we were kind of talking about like, we were doing a little bit of practice on the sand, and Ryan was like, I was like, I feel like I can't like push myself quite as hard as I normally can on this sand. And Ryan kind of said it's like a completely different sport. It's like you're on the row erg, and then all of a sudden you like go on the ski erg, and you're like, oh, my heart rate can't get up high on the ski erg. You don't really have that technique, or you don't really have that proficiency to push hard. And I kind of knew it was going to be a weird race. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of going to races and like having a bad performance and then going home and like crying about it. So I was like, I'm just going to make a sick trip about it. And then whatever happens, happens. So yeah, I was really happy. I've never done a championship race that has been just about the whole experience. It's always been about the weekend is a success if I place X. Whereas this was coming into it with a very different mindset. The week was a success if my whole family could get there with, especially now with all this COVID, with all the policies and procedures around COVID. If we all could just get there, no flight issues, we all could have a good time, see each other, as long as I finish the race and give it a good effort, there's nothing to kind of complain about. So it was really special because I think it showed me that there's a whole different style of racing and type of racing and approach to racing that I haven't really ever done before. And I left actually feeling very much more fulfilled than I have previous years, even with the worst placement I've ever had at Worlds. So, well, not, I shouldn't say ever have, but have had in a very long time. So,
What was it? What were you, fifth, sixth?
seventh. Yeah.
Right.
So I've been like the last few years, other than last year, because I dropped out with I had hypothermia at the Tahoe race, not last year, but the year before. Um, yeah, I've been fourth, third. So it wasn't like I mean, and there was a whole bunch of different athletes there this year, which I didn't think which I didn't think Spartan or the other competitors really understood how great they were. There was a bunch of other people in the mix from other countries. We always tend to think like, North America, the Canadians, Lindsay and myself, and then the other US people, but sometimes we forget about there's a whole bunch of other series of races that are going on. And there's some really talented girls I've seen, like a bunch of all the girls I was running with, none of them spoke English. And I'm just like typical, so ignorant. Like, I just like think they speak English, so I'm just blabbering to them like sentences in like English, and they're just like, what the heck? So yeah, it was nice to race some new faces.
Do you think they recognized you at least?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that you think I'm like so famous. Like, oh, Faye Stenning, OCR, Fab Five. But like most people don't know who I am. Like most people have no idea who I am. Like, so no, I don't think they recognize me.
Well, I want to cover some of the pre-race stuff. There was a lot of what's the word? What's a good word for unsuredness, unsurety?
Yeah.
There was a lot of
That there was a lot. Yeah.
about what is it actually going to be like, and were you able to, for example, travel freely? Did places you, because I know you made a vacation out of it and you went out to see the site. So did they make you use that Alsane app we had heard about, or I want to hear about that stuff.
Oh man. Um yeah, it's been traveling during this time has been very frustrating, and I'm someone who I am like, pro vaccine. I love, like, in New York City what they did right away. They're like, if you want to come eat indoors, like, go ahead, but you have to be fully vaccinated. Like, I love that approach and I have no problem um with that. But there's just so many forms and so much redundancies. And I mean, I have no idea. I don't have a better way or a better solution to do this, but the amount of like issues I've had, like not just with Abu Dhabi, but then I flew to Italy and then Spain. And like, you don't have to, that's a luxury to be able to travel and do all those things. So I could have just waited till this is over and had a better travel experience. But there's just so many forms. And then when we got to Abu Dhabi, there was like this app that you needed, or they gave you a number, and then they tested you upon arrival, and then you basically they would give you this number, and you had to input this number into this app, and then it would tell you if you were like in the clear. And I didn't have, my cell phone provider didn't have any coverage in the UAE. So like it was trying to text me this code so I could get this verification code to download this app or something. And I kept trying to explain to them, like, I can't get this code because like I won't get the text messages because it's not going to come through. And they had like no other way. It's not like they emailed or did anything. So I, for the longest time, like was like almost getting turned down at restaurants and stuff like that because I couldn't get into this app. And then anyways, we just talked to the guys so there was a lot of that. But I mean, I guess it was like a safe, it was funny because the restaurants and the hotels required that, and then Spartan also said that they require people to be vaccinated. But I never, when we checked in to registration with Spartan, I had all my vaccination cards and negative PCR tests, and I was ready to show them, and you just like walk right in. So it's one of those things where like companies like just say they're on board but actually aren't on board or don't really care. So that was kind of interesting.
Right, but I assume if you're at a restaurant, they've got Wi-Fi and you could get your text that way.
No, no, it wasn't going through on my phone because it's not all like, I don't know who, like, to be on, to get texts on Wi-Fi, it needs to be like an Apple phone to an Apple phone or something, like, doesn't it? I don't know, because I know when I got back to New York, I got half of my friends' text messages, but the other half I didn't get, and I don't know. So I wasn't getting that as well.
Interesting, interesting.
But that was a
Uh,
pain in the ass. But
so nobody actually turned you away, though. It was just a matter of kind of just like, "Hey, I
yeah, it
promise,"
was
and
just
you
a
showed them your
yeah.
Vax card. I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had a whole bunch of issues, and then I was in when I was in Italy trying to go to Spain, like, there was, like, this form I was, like, trying to fill out, I couldn't fill it on out on my phone, and maybe this is just me, maybe I'm technically challenged, so I'm, like, at the gate, like, on my laptop trying to, like, fill out this form, and everyone requires things to be printed, and so you had to, like, I've been having to print stuff, I don't have a printer here. My friend, like in New York, like no one, like people don't have like, or in shoe boxes here, they definitely don't have a printer. And so I had a friend that bought a printer just for like this whole COVID thing, how everything needs to be printed. She went out and just like bought a printer because she's like, there's like all these documents now are being required to be printed. And so some things are a little archaic, but I mean, I'm not complaining, and I have no idea of better ways to do things. And the point is, was very safe, and we got there and we were able to race. I was really happy about that. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a headache with traveling for sure.
Yeah, it seems silly. I certainly wouldn't expect people to print things. People at one time had them at their houses. They became very affordable. But I assume the last time somebody's printer broke, they're probably like, well, fuck it, I'll never need this again because
Yeah,
everything's on the
exactly.
phone. So I can understand them making paper an option. Like, hey, you don't have a smartphone, so we make paper an option. But I
Yeah.
can't see them not accepting phone as that's what everything is on. And that's what that
Mm.
Alsane app was supposed to do. Clearly, you did not watch my amazing video. I spent a whole day
Yeah,
figuring
that was amazing. My mom was like, I swear my mom was gonna do that for me. Like,
right.
that's like and she's like, "Matt is doing my job, thank God." Okay, to make things worse, I hope my mom isn't listening to this,
She's not.
episode here because, so to top it all off, this is so hilarious because I was so like overburdened with all these extra forms I needed to fill out that I'm like, we're leaving to the airport to go back to the States, go back to New York. And I'm just like turned to my boyfriend. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't get back into the States because I forgot to take, I just got my visa in the States renewed and I forgot it in New York. And I was like, "Oh my god." I was like I had my old one in there that was, like, long expired, and I had literally forgot to put it in my passport. I was like contacted my lawyers. They're like, "Yeah, you're gonna get hassled at customs." Like, I don't know what to do. They're like, "You know what? Here's the electronic file, print it off at the airport and, like, hope they don't ask any questions because it wasn't, like, an official." So, anyways, I printed off. I had no issues, but I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I would never normally forget that. I just was so overwhelmed and, like, burdened with all these forms. I was like, "Ah."
So
Anyways, I made
in a
it, but
in a worst case scenario, would you have had to like go to Canada instead because they would have let you in there?
I have no idea what would have happened. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But it was fine. Yeah, I have no idea. They accepted the paper, like, copy that I had printed at the hotel, so
Right. So I definitely want to hear more about the race, but I am curious because I know you have a certain level of expectation. You like your fancy things. You're a fancy gal. So I'm curious what staying. Did you stay at a hotel or did you go the tent route?
oh, no, I mean, I don't even camp, and so to camp before a race, I was like "There is no way." Like, I even have a hard time with Airbnbs, like, that's how snobby I can be. I'm like, I like full, like, hotels. Um, yeah, I don't know, maybe my parents, like, spoiled me rotten traveling. I come from my parents got divorced when I and my sister were quite young. This is why I blame my snobbiness on travel, and I think to, like, bribe us to spend more time with them, they were like they would take us on these holidays. So
Love it.
my dad would be like, "Girls, you wanna come to New York City?" And my mom, "I wanna go on these this," and my mom would be like, "You wanna come there?" So we were very lucky, and we grew up, like, yeah, kind of like, our parents bribing us with holidays, and, it's kind of yeah, I've kind of been, that's why I couldn't go to all these other races because I'm like, I don't know how to do things that affordably. So I'm like, oh God, I can't go to this or that because I don't have all the money for all this. So I was like, okay, I'll just have to pick one and I'll like really like go all out and take all my Spartan budget for the year and like put it into this one race. And then I'll just do the races that are in California because I can stay with my sister and have friends there. But yeah, the whole tent thing. And I mean, it's not even just like, oh, Faye's so snobby type thing. Or she's not like outdoorsy or whatever enough. It's also like it's you've been preparing for like several months for this competition, and to sleep in a tent that like I had no idea like how comfortable that was going to be in terms of like is it going to be loud,
It
is it going to
was.
be hot, like I don't know, like yeah, like all that stuff. So and with other people that you don't like, I mean you probably would have bunked up like if you were a couple, but I would have had to find like two other people. And I'm just I don't know, and I like what I like about Spartan racing is the opportunity to travel and to travel with loved ones. Like I've always brought like I would bring my boyfriend or my family, my friends. Like I always make like a kind of a trip out of these things, and like there's no way like my family would have like hey, mom and dad, you want to share this tent with me? They would have been like, what are you talking about, Faye? No, so I decided not to. And then if it was a lot cheaper, like a lot cheaper, I would have considered it. But I think the per night cost was just as much as I spent on the hotel. Like I think they were charging $500 a night for the tent, and my hotel room was not
Well,
$500 a night. So I don't know.
here's the thing. We've talked about this a little, and so I don't want to constantly like beat a dead horse, but people, including myself, but I'll just speak for the athletes, I guess. We're very excited. Hey, Spartan's going to fly us and give us these tents. And then they waited and waited and waited, so much so that, um, people, if people did have an option to like, well, maybe I should do it myself, it got more and more expensive. And so you got your accommodations literally some people 7, 8 days before they flew. Right. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was free if you wanted to fly at hours you didn't want to fly at. Right. Or ridiculously long layovers. And listen, I just want to establish something here because I'm sure there'll be some people that judge one's snobbiness. And I once upon a time was a person like that too, probably. Okay. When I was a young man, I could sleep anywhere. I lived on people's couches. Okay. When I moved to Los Angeles, okay, with a box of shit and that's all I owned, I stayed with a friend on a couch. And then when 3 weeks later they were like, you don't have an apartment yet, get out of here, I stayed on another couch. Like, that's what I did. I don't like sleeping on couches anymore. Right. I'm not going to. Right.
Mhm.
And I assume like if I was in some situation where I had to, I suppose I would, but one is allowed to have standards of things that they like. It doesn't make you a horrible person. It doesn't make you privileged. It's a choice I'm making, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to stay in a really fucking hot, like when I do Ragnar with my boys, like that's like one night a year that I spend out and I do it with my boys. And I even like was the guy that asked the tent next to me to be quiet. And looking back, they probably fucking hated me, but I don't care. Like I wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's okay
I,
to have
totally.
standards and things that you do and that you don't do. So I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah, and I'm someone, I'm like, I am who I am. Like this is kind of, I love traveling. Like that is what I spend all my money on. Like I live in a small little studio here in New York. I don't have one designer handbag, I shop at Target. Like I'm like very basic, but I love going to seeing different parts of the world, and I always want to make it a really convenient, relaxing time, because I mean, I work my ass off. Jessica and I work 7 days a week on our coaching business, and every, disposable amount of money that I have that I'm not putting away, it's like I want to, travel with loved ones and like make it go all out and make it a great experience.
And I can appreciate that. So let's get back to the race. So the race starts, okay. And was it deep right away or was it kind of nice until you got to those actual dunes and you were like, "Oh fuck."
Oh God. Uh, it was so brutal. It was so the first like maybe 200 meters, I remember it was like flat and like packed, and you could like feel like you like you could feel the ground, like you dug into the sand, but there was an end to it. That was like the first, like I remember maybe running like 2 minutes where I was like, oh my God, I can run in this is like totally my day. I was like up there at the front, and then it just got like so deep. And I mean, it was obviously like a long like test of endurance, but it just, for me, it was just like, it was a really frustrating way to run. Like you're just like pulling your legs out of this deep sand. You have no ability to turn over your legs. So to go faster, usually in running, like to go faster, you lengthen out your stride and increase your turnover. That's like, what how I've been training my whole life. And
It's kind of basic science of running.
yeah, and this was just not like that. And it just became, I just had a hard time pushing myself in that type of environment. Like I just was like, I hate this sucks, I'm just gonna have a good time. um and I mean, I worked hard, but I just could not find that other gear. It was just such an awkward, it felt like a totally different sport. That's the best way I could put it, a completely different sport. And what was like, when you're climbing up a sand dune and all of a sudden you have to fall to your hands and knees, And I was
Right.
like, am I just like weak, or like, is there something wrong with me? But then I watched the video and you see John Elbum, Brian Atkins. That was actually the preferred method of getting up those sand dunes, was literally crawling up them. And as someone who comes from track and field, and I love like intensity, like I love like a good 64-minute super where it's neck and neck, and someone fails an obstacle and then like two other people pass them and then they recatch them, and it's like you're working at a high intensity. This just really felt like a complete it felt miserable. And yeah, it real like there's a lot of times out there, like I really was questioning, like, what is this sport? Like we have like our quote unquote top like world champions in this sport that are literally on their knees crawling up this sand dune. And I really wanted like a competition, and I found like myself like in no man's land for half the time. And it wasn't, and the obstacles were very easy, which took out that element of obstacle course racing, which I think is a huge problem. I literally maybe spend 90 minutes a week in the gym doing strength work, and the obstacles were so
Well,
easy. Like I just I want a bit more of that strength component back into the sport, and it just
right.
literally felt like a long endurance slog, and it
Well,
wasn't that fun.
all right, but this begs the question, Faye, because you admittedly said like I don't want to do OCR Worlds, I want to do Spartan racing, and Spartan racing. When you said that, it wasn't, I guess, as standardized, but in the last 2-3 years, that's what you're going to get. Spartan doesn't want to impress us with obstacles. They want to standardize, which we understand for a worldwide sport, and it unfortunately they didn't want to tweak it. We've said, hey, how about making the pro heat harder? At least a double sandbag or a longer rig or do these different things. But since they don't want to do that, like that's the Spartan way. That's what you're going to get with Spartan.
Yeah, and you're like bang on. Like I did say that, and like, that exactly was my mindset, and it's completely, I think, changed, because when I was sort of saying that, I was still sort of playing the game as a quote unquote Spartan Pro team member.
Oh,
So not that I was just talking up Spartan, not that I was talking up Spartan because I had a contract with anything. It was because like I was making really good money racing. I think we've talked about this. I made a lot of money on, when I first started, on sponsorships. And I'm really open about this because I want people that are trying to chase this dream, whether that's the OCR dream team that Nicole's started, or whether it's younger athletes that are coming into this sport. Like I want to be honest with them, like, can they make a living? Because and I honestly did, and I made a very good living off sponsorships and all this stuff. So was I going to go into OCR Worlds where I potentially might fail an obstacle and not be on the podium? Like no, like I played it so safe in my career when I was like at the top. All I did was races that I knew I was going to be good at, and I avoided all those other ones. And sometimes I made up excuses like they were dangerous, these obstacles, even though I felt like some of them were. But because I was playing the game, like I had bonuses and sponsorship deals and all this stuff. Now I'm lucky enough that I was able to grow a business and support myself financially, that I don't have any paid sponsors, and I do this completely for myself. And so now what I want in a race is I want an experience and I want a challenge. And I don't want that challenge to be like this like mental who is tougher challenge. I want it to be a bit more physical. And so when I say a bit more physical, I mean like, yes, harder obstacles, faster running is a huge thing for me. I would love to have to get down to like my college times. And I would love to like be able to, when I used to be able to do like 25 pull-ups and be like crazy strong and have to go rock climbing. Like I want those types of physical challenges again. And Spartan's just like not quite doing that for me yet. And anymore. And I mean, that sounds so crazy because I'm not even like at the top anymore. It's like, well, Faye, like instead of being fifth or seventh, like, why don't you just like try and win these things again? But I think I'm just looking for something a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up in these sports in the next couple of years.
well, listen, I appreciate you, Faye. I think a lot of racer play the game, which I can appreciate, and they're still never quite like as honest as you are, even though you just said you played the game and maybe weren't quite as like what's the word, transparent. But
Mhm.
I think people know what I'm saying, that you put it out there. You and I have had a couple calls like about the money stuff, and most people are afraid to say anything, whether they work for Spartan or they don't. And I just want to say, like, I know you don't want to talk figures, but when you said you did well, we're talking about on or above or at or right around or above six figures for a couple years, right? Like there was
Y
like 15,
Yeah, I
16,
made more
17,
than
like
6 figures. Yeah, I made more than
real
6 figures.
real money, ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen. That's what we
Yeah,
call real
real
money.
money.
But now we got to
Now
talk about.
now nothing, and I don't think there's anything available. Now there is nothing. I,
Well,
Matt, I
there's
wake up every day feeling so lucky that I timed my athletic peak at like the perfect amount of time. Like when I was at my best, NBC, ESPN, Yokohama Tire, Reebok, like the list goes on.
Timex.
Timex, Optimum Nutrition, like all these big companies were interested. The exhausting part about it was they were interested for 1 year. And
Right,
so I would sign with them for 1 year. And then this time of the year, around Christmas time, when you're signing those January contracts, I would be so stressed out. I'd be back to $0 and I'd
right.
have to build my way up with these one deal contracts. But these little companies now are coming in and you look like they're like, oh, we're interested in and we're talking to Spartan, you look them up on Instagram, they got 5,000 followers. Well, how are they? They're a startup. How are they supposed to pay? So I just got really lucky on timing. And I feel I love what Nicole, like shout out to Nicole Miracle. I love what she's doing with the dream team. But yeah, there just aren't those opportunities in the sport for people to make money anymore. And especially because Spartans not enabling them to compete by not like sending athletes down, which is fine. We all understand, like that is, I'm not bitching about that because I understand obviously what we've been in the last 2 years, as like through this global pandemic. And I understand that companies don't have the same resources that they had in their, but yeah, I do feel really lucky most days that I've like been able to time that so perfectly.
Right. Well, and again, before people get it twisted, she's not saying small people aren't doing their best with what they have, right? Because a bunch of little ones don't equal one big one, but they do equal something, right? Like
Oh yeah,
something.
yeah,
and and
absolutely.
and some people are getting, even just a trip, like just getting a trip, like, hey, this company paid me to travel to X race, like, awesome, great, because
Oh,
I'm
it's
the same
huge.
way,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm trying to go after advertising dollars, and I'm trying to get a bunch of small ones, right? Because I can't
Oh,
bank
it's
on one,
great.
right?
Yeah, no,
So,
it's
but
great. No, it's great. Like I don't want to come across like you need these big deals and to make a living, but I just couldn't play that game anymore. It became very, very stressful.
right,
Um,
right, and I think starting your own business is kind of the way to go. Like, I just think I mean, look at Hunter, right? Hunter's, like, as he's getting older, right? I mean, he's still a phenomenal athlete, but he's looking at this from a business perspective. So he's got merch. He's got his own nutrition line. He's got coaching. Like, he launched a virtual race. But I want to go back to this racing thing, Faye, because you admittedly aren't at the quote unquote top of your game. Okay. And if you look at this, and I'm looking at it right now, okay, who you lost to: Lindsay, Annie, Alyssa, Emma. Okay, these are like the best people in the sport right now, right?
mhm,
Miriam, always a beast, right? Literally always a beast anywhere in the world. Natalia, I'm not familiar with, and then you, okay? And
mhm.
then here's who you beat, right? Now, you were like clearly several minutes behind Lindsay, world champion, but you did beat Ida and you did beat Yanka, and they are two of the best in the world at obstacle racing. Ida did phenomenally at OCRWC, and I know that you didn't go back to OCRWC. You didn't want to do Dragon's Back. That was kind of the big hang up. So does this mean that we might see you next year? It is close to you. It's in Vermont, right? It's not a long trip, right?
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking a lot about this, I think, while I was on holidays. I was like, what do I like to like what do I like to like what do I want to train for? Um and to be honest, like these like that like long, I was not in the shape that I really needed to be in to world championships because I have a certain amount of like tolerance of running that I can handle in the city because doing Central Park Loop over and over and over and over again. I mean, I literally run it 10 times. I run I
Do
run that
you
loop 10 times a week.
are you are
And
you
like
the
it's
are you the
sometimes
local
like
legend?
no, 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 no. The marathoners I train with are like like they do it way more. I don't know how, like, I would just want to blow out my brains. Like
Do
there's
you do you have but do you own any segments at least?
oh no, I am like a mediocre
I think I asked you
runner
this
in New
question
York.
before. I think I asked you this
You
question
did.
before.
I am a mediocre runner in New York City. Like I jumped into a very like okay, to put it into perspective. The Thanksgiving Day turkey trot, which was put on by my one of my friends' bars in the city last minute, I was third in the 5K. Female. It's literally just like it is there is so many phenomenal runners here. And I've gotten kind of back into my roots of running and running fast. I've really much enjoyed not just slogging for 3 hours
Right,
up and down the
so what
mountain.
about the
So
short one? What about the OCRWC short one?
I might do that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna focus on I'm gonna actually focus on DecaFit just because I saw they're having a world championship and I'm like, oh, like it's not that I like care about being a world champion in DecaFit. It's just that that sort of gives sort of like a nice like little sort of way for you to plan your season when something has a world championship. So you're like, oh, I can build to it. I can peak for this one event. It just sort of organizes your goals in kind of a nice way. Um, so I think I'm gonna do that. And then maybe some shorter races. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I want to do like another like big long like 3-hour effort and get ready for that because I mean I was fairly happy with my performance at Worlds, sure, but do I could have I know if I put in the work that it is required to put in and that I have the ability to put in, I probably could have came third, but I just don't really have the passion for like logging that many miles, and also I don't want to invest so much time into training now. There's like a bunch of other things. I'm really, really passionate about my business with Jess. And I mean, that girl's been working so hard. I mean, she's been doing a lot of the marketing. She's like the brains behind that business. And I want to put more emphasis on that. So I want to do something that I could train maybe 1 hour, 5, 6 days a week. So I'm talking like 6 hours a week of training as opposed to 20 or what I was doing when I was the best. And um, yeah, so something shorter, faster, and with a bit more of a strength component, I think would be a little bit of fun.
Well, I would say then, yeah, focus on that. Do listen, I don't know if you remember, but it's a great time. OCRWC is a great weekend, right? So
Mhm.
you do the 3K on Friday, right? And then party, right? Have a good time. You like having a good time with all the athletes, right? Have a
Not really.
no. What do you mean
I'm
not
kidding,
really?
I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Yeah,
Um, and then so Saturday you hang out, like just hang out, watch your buddies, whatever. Sunday do the team race, and that's always fun, right? Represent your country,
yeah.
maybe doing that. You know what I mean? You should do it. You
Yeah,
should
maybe
come
I
up
should do
for it.
it. I should do OCR. Yeah, maybe I'll write that down.
Thank you so much for watching. We're going to continue to bring you these videos. Sure, it's the holiday. A lot of people go home, right? A lot of people take off. But for me, I love what I do. This is my job, and I do take days off. But I'm going to continue to bring you some podcasts and some videos over the next couple weeks to entertain you through the holidays. You want to take a break from the old fam? Maybe a mother-in-law, maybe a kid. You want to dip down, like go for a run, listen to a podcast, or just maybe sneak into another room and put on a video. We're here for you. So thanks so much for watching and for supporting. Listen, do the like and subscribe thing. It helps us a ton. Hit the like. Many of you leave comments every time. Those that do, I really appreciate it. Go ahead and leave a comment. That helps the algorithm. And yeah, hit that subscribe and bell thing too, because that helps us. All right. Love you. Miss you. Mean it. I have got to run.